Coming up next on The Mikey Martin Show.
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and it's 100% true. And don't get me wrong, if you plan and you're taking more time to plan than you are to work, then there's something wrong. Ultimately, the best plans, they need work. If you find yourself working hard and there's no end in sight and there's no reason, or the results, the benefits from that hard work aren't there, then you're probably just working hard. Anybody can do anything on their own. It's just a matter of confidence and tenacity. I recently pivoted into specializing. If you ever find yourself having a bad day, do something good for somebody else. 100% of the time, it'll make you feel better.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I am so excited to have our guest on today. His name's Daniel Pelaez. He's the owner of One Mission Construction. And guys, he's one of my closest friends. We talked together a couple of years ago, and we both decided, we're like, hey, we're both going to go out. We're going to work really hard. We're going to make a lot of money. We're going to help a lot of people. And then we're going to get back together and we're going to talk and see where we're at. And so guys, today's one of those days. We're not quite there yet, but we're both getting there. Dan, welcome to the show.
Oh, no. Thanks, Mikey, for having me. Yeah, man, I remember that day. It's pretty funny. Yeah.
Guys, we got to post on Instagram somewhere. So anyway, guys, so excited to have Daniel on. He's one of the hardest workers I know. He really knows the value of work. He knows the value of sticking to your principles and really sticking to something until it works. He's a loving father. He's a super businessman. He just gets his hands dirty and really learns his trade. So I'm so happy to have him on today because, guys, he's the king of momentum. He really, everything in his business and everything, he's really helping you to find what's a better way to get going faster with better people. Anyway, we're going to go over a lot of great stuff today. So I'm really excited to have you here, Dan. Dan, would you just take a second, really just introduce yourself, tell people your name, kind of what's your personal brand about, and maybe also your construction company, and then just kind of what's your mission in life? Who are you?
Yeah, for sure. I come from a pretty big family. I'm the only boy in my family and the youngest as well. I have 5 older sisters. My dad is a first-generation immigrant from Dominican Republic, and he worked really hard, growing up. And so I've been working alongside him ever since I remember, that I could. I was at a job site cleaning up scraps if I needed to, But yeah, high school I was an athlete. Junior high I was an athlete. I played basketball in high school. I played a little bit of volleyball in college. And then I joined the Army right after high school. Spent a year and a half in Georgia. Then I served a mission for my church in North Carolina. And yeah, that was a ton of fun. Came back, went to school for a couple semesters, decided that I wanted to start my own company. I got married as well. Got married, had a kid, started my own company, bought a house, some pretty ordinary stuff. But I realized working for somebody else, I was working full time for the Army. I realized that there was a cap to my potential, and I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to see the sky as my limit and push myself to achieve it. So yeah, a couple years ago, I started a general contracting company, and it's One Mission Construction. And I don't know, everything in my life has always been about working hard, doing your best work possible, right, and assuring that everybody around you is kind of happy and helping those around you as much as you can. My dad was very service oriented, so I'm very service oriented, and I just love it. But yeah. I was thinking, started my company up. It's called One Mission Construction, or OMC Construction. And my whole mission in construction is to change the stereotype of contractors and just the blue collar workforce. Everybody they work hard, but it's hard to get a hold of them, or they don't show up when they're supposed to, or all this stuff. And there's always a negative experience involved with construction. And if you've ever done a home project or anything like that, it's probably a pretty frustrating thing to go through. So that's my whole mission in my company, is to make sure that we provide the best experience for our customers. And I've really enjoyed working it for the past couple of years, and I'm excited to see where it goes in this next year. Some good stuff's happening, so I'm excited.
I love it. Okay, Dan, I'm going to pause it right there real quick, just because I got to close this window. It's about 2 inches open, but there's a bunch of kids that are screaming bloody murder out there. So I'll just cut that right there. No worries. Okay, dude, that was awesome. Okay, let me get into this. Dan, I love that. No, everybody wants to, change the world in some way, and that's a huge way. If you can really make sure that people have an amazing new experience and that you can change the way that they view people and work with people, you're a trendsetter already. And everybody knows that that's the way to become more exceptional. And guys, this is a huge thing that has to do with Dan's momentum. As he's going to now not have a cap on his potential, and as he's going to now determine that the sky is his limit, he's now acting at that new level that professionals act at, which is the experience. They want to build an experience. They want to build relationships. And that's where the super performers live. So Dan, again, you didn't want to stay in the military because you saw a cap, and then you wanted to make your own company. Now, where do you see this going, man? And how fast do you want to get there? Because I know that some people, they're like, yeah, I'll work my whole life and we'll see how far I get, versus I'm going to get this far in this time. And, the only way you can actually do that with a lot of these situations is by increasing your momentum. Yep. So what are kind of your goals? Where are you headed? You've done a lot of great work so far. Guys, he mostly just goes word of mouth because he doesn't need to market himself, because he gets too many jobs because he does such great work. And again, he's a local guy. So if you guys aren't in Utah, you're not going to be working with him yet. He's going to be expanding later, but
I'm working on that right now, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So where do you see yourself in the next, what is it, 10, 15 years? Do you have a finish line? What's it look like?
So right now I have a little bit of projections, but yeah, you're right. I'm still technically in the Army. I just do my 1 week in a month in the National Guard, but
nice.
So that kind of keeps me in shape, ready to go. So
love that.
But for my own company, I've recently pivoted into specializing instead of just ultimately general contracting. And
sweet, guys, listen to that. Pivot, specialize in something. It's a great way to increase your momentum.
Yeah, and I, when I was in the past year, I was going really hard. I was getting jobs. I had more jobs than I could schedule, basically. And then all of a sudden, during some supply issues, it just kind of screeched to a halt, to stretch my jobs out way too far.
Right.
And so I realized that, hey, my profit margins between start and finish are getting a lot smaller because it's taking a lot longer. And I wanted to maintain the momentum that I've had, because in my line of work, it's really easy to get burned out. And I think, if you're working hard at anything, it's easy to get burned out. Let me be clear on that. If you're
Absolutely.
Killing yourself every day to accomplish your goals, you're going to get burned out really fast. It's how you maintain a steady pace that's going to keep you going towards your goals. And that's something I learned a lot in the military, and just in training in general. They would always say, hey, you need to know where your cliff is, where the edge is, and you need to push yourself to that edge, and then you need to back off real quick.
Whoa!
There's no point in going to the edge and then pushing yourself 10 feet more and then going off, and then you can't perform, right? It's all about pushing yourself to the edge and stepping back and reassessing, and then pushing more, right?
Well, and on this podcast, we've always talked about recovery, and that's we always said there's a line you're not supposed to cross, but a cliff makes such a better analogy, because that's where the breakdown kind of that's where you took it too far, and now you're losing off on that momentum because you are going to stop in your tracks.
Yep. And if you think about it's kind of easy for me to visualize it because of all my training, but if we're running a mission and it's 10 miles away from where we're staying and we have to book it there, there's no point in us killing ourselves for 10 miles with all of our equipment, all of our gear, and then performing the mission when we get there. Because if we do that, we're going to be burnt out. We're not going to perform as well. There's going to be casualties. There's going to be all kinds of issues, right? So you might as well maintain a steady pace that builds up to your mission so you can accomplish your mission and then return safely, right? So, and it's the same thing in business, same thing in life. Whenever you're pushing yourself, you got to maintain that edge and make sure you don't go over that.
Right. Well, and you can only do that if, one, you know your limits, and two, you actually prepare, because if you're prepping that whole mission, you know, you really know what you're doing from experience. You know, hey, there's that edge, and we're going to be dead if we do this all in one take. And so you know to split it up. For sure.
That
is so cool. I love that.
So I recognize that, hey, I'm getting to my edge with where I was at previously. And so I did take that pivot, right? And switch directions, you know, adjusted fire. And now I'm just specializing and I literally started just specializing a month ago. And I have over $1 million in projected sales.
Guys. Well, and get this, I mean, with him specializing, guys, your efficiency goes up, your margins go up, your reviews go up. The word of mouth spreads so much faster and everything, because people go, oh, if you need a guy for that thing, I've got a guy, instead of a guy who can do everything. And this is a huge principle in business. This is huge, especially from becoming a small-time person to a big-time winner. They always specialize into something, at least to get into being a big player. And then they might diversify more, but this is a huge thing. Okay. So Dan, you got $1 million in projected sales. Anyway, I mean, how does that change your momentum? How does that change where you're headed?
Oh yeah. It shifted me from being like, oh yeah, I don't want to get employees. The headache is too much. The overhead is too much. To now I need employees in order to maintain and to fulfill these contracts. And I'm kind of shifting from, hey, I'm going to be a general contractor. Now I'm just going to try to own a company and have crews that work for me and all that stuff, and try to maintain that good quality throughout my crews. And I think the most important thing when you try to specialize in something is you need to recognize that in your industry, there's a shortage, right? Like if you're in a marketing industry and you say, oh, there's a shortage for people that can travel to take videos or whatever, there's a shortage of people that can do virtual reality, for example, right? In marketing, then maybe you should specialize in that and make sure your profit, your margins are good still.
Right.
But in construction, you know, as a general contractor, it took me 2 months, 3 months sometimes to find a crew to frame my jobs. So I recognize that, hey, there is a huge shortage, not only here in Utah, but I mean, all over. There's a huge shortage of framers. Right now, the company that I'm framing a house for right now, they just asked me if I would go to Montana to frame for them. And the average cost per square foot to frame is about $10 a square foot, $15 a square foot for a custom home. And they're offering me $60 a square foot to frame a house. So
my goodness.
Just knowing, hey, there's a huge need. You got to pick that need and you got to exploit that into your company and try to use that to build your momentum. And so I think, you know, easily within the next 5-10 years, I could be retired and just owning a company instead of running a company. So
guys, and if you know anything about construction, like that's completely realistic. Like if he can really, I mean, I just love this, guys. This is such a serious thing. I mean, so many people, they get stuck in these ruts, and there's a few things that get you stuck in there. And anyway, but the point is, as soon as you learn to pivot, and the reason you pivot is very important. But the thing is, he's going into this saying, I'm in this industry. I've had a hard time finding these workers. I recognize that there's a need here. Well, and let's point out that he found it when he was working. Guys, if you don't already push some effort, you know, you're never going to get to that point. It's like bodybuilders, you know, they're building their arm until they're like, oh, I'm going to build the long head of my bicep. And it's like, you get more specific because you start recognizing the serious, unique results that you're able to bring to the table. And that's when it becomes special. That's when it starts to create that sweet momentum because you know exactly where you're headed, you know how to get there, and you can just grow. And the fact that he's been in the industry means he's got connections already, which means that he's already got the word out. He can send out the thing. I mean, you know, it's awesome. And so this momentum, this pivot is making it so that he can do so much more. And especially with, oh, I just love it how you said, like, you know where the edge is and also specialize in something. And when you know both those things, you can go so far.
Yeah. And
when that edge moves.
Yeah, the edge is always constantly shifting depending on your circumstances at home, your circumstances with your health, everything, right? And I've heard this over the past couple weeks, like when you push yourself really hard, your body will just shut down eventually. It'll just be like, okay, we're done for a couple days, and it'll get sick or whatever. And so knowing where you need to draw the line so that that doesn't happen, that way you can keep going is the best thing. Like, and I think the biggest thing that helped me the most in my pivot to specializing is making sure I treated everybody professionally, and that I tried to make sure I was the person that they needed when they needed me and always was available, kind of a thing. Like connections, especially when you're trying to start a company or own a company, basically, is the most important, crucial thing that I could tell you. Like, make sure you have connections, right? Connection, network.
How do your connections, how did it change your trajectory?
So for this, it was very crazy story. So when I first thought about starting my company, I wanted to get a little bit more experience in the field. So I wanted to go and work under another general contractor for a couple of years as a superintendent and kind of learn his schedule, figure out how he did it, because I heard he was kind of the best. And so I interviewed with him, and I called him up out of the blue and said, "Hey, I heard you're looking for a superintendent. I'd love to come work for you." And ultimately he said, "No, I don't, I don't want to hire you. I'm going to go with somebody else," and all this stuff. Fast forward a year, and he is the one that referred me to frame this house that I'm framing right now. Wow. And I had never done any work for him, but he knew me as like a hard worker. He like, I never even met the guy. I just called him on the phone and talked to him a little bit, right? And he liked me, and yeah, I don't know. My confidence level, I guess, was like intriguing to him. I don't know, but he referred me to this guy, and he said, "Hey, this guy's the best, basically. You should hire him to frame this house." And so I go and frame that house for this other guy, and then from there it just blew up. Like, oh, frame this house, and it's, what's funny is that I specialize in framing now, and then that house was another specialization inside of framing, and so like there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on. But it was interesting how I could have easily turned that, "Hey, I'm not going to hire you," into a negative experience. I could have been like,
totally,
whatever, man, you're a jerk. I could have really used it or whatever, right? And just kind of burned that bridge. But because I was professional and courteous, that now gave me the opportunity to like skyrocket, basically. Right. And the same guy's like, "Hey, you want a job? I'll hire you now." You know,
really?
Later, but yeah.
That is so funny.
But yeah, it's all about the connections and all about knowing, and not necessarily knowing when something's going to pan out, but always having the faith and the hope, kind of, for something to turn out and pan out.
Well, faith and hope, guys. I mean, huge. But the thing is, Dan's also putting in the work. So don't just sit on, your butts and be like, "I'm really hoping someone's going to call me and give me the success," because the thing is, Dan went out and he, the thing is, again, like you said, he could have played victim. He could have played victim, and he could have gotten upset at the world and, "Oh, why aren't I having instant success? And why don't you want to hire me?" But now the guy's going, "Hey, I'll hire you now," because Daniel's professional. He works hard. He follows up quickly. I think professionals want to work with professionals, and professional isn't necessarily the fact that you can do the job better than anyone. It's that you're going to, almost just personally live correctly. And that's being courteous. That's following up quick. People love, I can tell you, just like Dan, we're trying to get these teams, to come out and do jobs, and they're taking forever. People that follow up with me quickly, I follow up with them quickly, and we get stuff done. And it's like, why would I call the other people when I know that this guy's going to reply quickly and get the job done right? So huge that he's building up this personal brand in a very professional way. So that's huge. Dan, so anyway, I think it's so cool that you bring in this stuff about the military and your business. Guys, there are so many successful CEOs out there that all have military experience, like insane amounts of them. If you go look at all these Fortune 500 companies, the one thing they all have kind of in common is some sort of military background. Something amazing is there. So anyway, Dan, let me ask you really quick, because how do people learn where is their edge without totally going over the edge? And then also, how do they push that edge so that they can do more without going over it?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, learning the edge is kind of where I take my daily evaluations, or like my weekly evaluations, saying, okay, what did I do today? What did I do this week? How did it impact me and my life as a whole?
Right.
And did I go over my edge, or did I stay within my edge, or was I not even close to my edge? And I think learning that balance of getting close to your edge, not over the edge, and not close enough, I guess, is something that you're gonna have to learn over time, and not being afraid to find that edge. I think that if we're timid and we're scared of, hey, I might cross the edge, then you're never gonna find the edge, because you're never gonna get close enough, right?
Sure.
So I think that just having those daily evaluations and the weekly evaluations, you can push it out to monthly and yearly evaluations too. But daily, weekly evaluations are, I think, more important when you're trying to find an edge, because, like I said, it's always changing, it's always moving. And the way I've learned is by working and saying, okay,
totally.
Today I did way too much, right? Yesterday I didn't do enough, so I need to find a sweet spot in between today and yesterday. And
right.
The more you do that, the more you narrow that down, the more the better you will be at finding that edge.
So how do you find the edge? You work, guys.
Yeah.
Get out
there. You gotta get it done.
Well, and in entrepreneurship, and you've heard this, I've heard this, a bunch of people have heard this, but it's fail fast, fail quick, fail cheap, especially when you're trying out a new business. Like, guys, failing is the best thing for you most of the time. I mean, you never learn anything from winning, and you'll hear that. But the thing is, it's like, failing is not a personal thing on you. You're failing at, trying something out for the first time. You're failing at, whatever it is that you're trying. And what that means is growth. Everybody thinks that success and winning and doing it right gets you the growth. It's the failing that is the real reason you got that growth. I don't know if there's any examples of that in like nature, but I want to find one.
You look at for me, example, I'm 6'6", and growing up, it hurt. Like, I had growing pains every single week.
Good call. Yeah.
For like 17 years, right? Just pain. And without that pain, there is no growth, right? So being able to recognize that, hey, it may suck, when I'm going through it, but embracing that suck to overcome is like what it's all about. Like, everything in life, nothing in life is going to be sunshine and rainbows 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And recognizing that, hey, I have an opportunity here to embrace the suck and overcome an adversity and be that much stronger, right? Is all, that's what it's all about. Looking at
the price.
Yeah, nothing in life is easy or free. You got to make sure you got to work for it. Even the good things in life, you got to work for the good things.
Totally. Well, and the good things you got to work for almost more. I feel like momentum in certain areas, and it depends. You could be born with talent. But the thing is, we all know that the person who just works forever always outdoes the person with talent. But the thing is, guys, I think that there's a thing, different momentum has different costs, you know, for something really great in life. You guys have all heard that principle, you know, that, you know, good things are never free or whatever, you know, great things have great costs kind of thing. With the idea of momentum is just that you have a focus. And I love why Dan's specializing, because the more you focus on one thing, the more you can get really good at that one thing, and you can become the best. And people pay for the best. People find a lot of value in the best, and you can help a lot more people once you're an expert. But the thing is, it's a focused payment, a daily payment on that momentum to try and get better at it. And anyway, I think it's so cool.
Yeah. And just to touch on that, I think there's a big difference, and this needs to be understood. There's a big difference between working hard and working well, like working really good. Like
right.
Momentum, momentum isn't about working hard. It's not about, you know, killing yourself every day to accomplish your goal, which I'm sure you could accomplish your goal working hard and killing yourself every day, and you can accomplish a lot of things. Right. There's a big difference between momentum and working hard. Like the momentum isn't going to slow down even when you stop for a day, right? Momentum's going to keep going every single day, even if you choose to let it go, make it go, right? If you have good momentum, it's going to push itself forward. It's not going to rely on you to push it forward.
Totally. Well, and guys, we've seen this. Like Dan's seen it because he does good work and he doesn't have to market himself, because the word of mouth just around the community is Dan does great work, hire Dan. That momentum is carrying him. He's not doing any extra work now. He did the work before. It's kind of this thing where it's like a graph. It's like, you know, you start out doing a ton of work and not getting paid what you're worth. And then eventually there's this intersect where you start getting paid about what you're worth. I just heard this from one of my business partners today, so I'm using it. I love it. But, you know, you start off doing all this work and not getting the pay that you deserve for the work. But then once they intersect, the thing is, you start working less and you start making more. Because, and it's the most bizarre law, but the thing is, it's momentum. You start bringing in this work, you start creating value for other people, helping them accomplish their goals, and they help you accomplish your goals. And so it's this beautiful thing. And that's why anyway, like Dan's saying, that momentum, it's not like you miss one day and you're dead. You know, I mean, but try not to miss 2 days. James Clear, the law of not missing 2 days in a row. You skip 2 days in the gym, you might, you know, anyway.
Yeah, no, it's so I would say if you're trying to build momentum, gain that momentum and create momentum, if you're going to evaluate the momentum that you have and to see if it's good momentum, totally. I would see if you stopped pushing it for a day, if it grew, right? Like
yeah.
If I didn't do anything for a day and a half, is it going to grow? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, you got to shake something up. You got to have something else to push that momentum besides you, because ultimately time is the most valuable thing in the world. And if it's taking all your time to maintain that momentum, then you're missing out on a lot of what life has to offer. And and I'll tell you right now, as an entrepreneur, business owner, small business owner, like, man, time is the most important thing you have. And I'm trying to balance that right now with specializing and growing. And it's I have an awesome wife, and she's patient with me. And so make sure your wife is okay with you working a lot of hours if you're gonna have a company, because it takes a lot more than you would think. So
well, and guys, look at this. I mean, anyway, the thing that Dan does that I love is that he's not just relying on momentum. He's doing momentum, and he's trying to compound his efforts through hiring other people, using other people's time, other people's talents. I mean, that's how you retire in 10 years, you know? I mean, and it's not that it's, you know, 10 more years, you know, he's already put in all this effort to get his momentum to where he's at. And let's point out that he's technically kind of starting a new chapter. He's starting a new thing, which is, you know, the framing. But the fact that he already has these skills over here makes it so that he can build momentum insanely quick over here. Build momentum in places where you have, like he said, good connections, some knowledge. And if you have a good work ethic, like he can grow this framing super fast because he already knows the people, he knows the place, he knows the industry, he knows the, he's already got it going. And so he's able to create this momentum just almost out of thin air. And it looks like magic. But anyway, it took a lot of hard work to get there and a lot of connections and a lot of professionalism. So anyway, Dan, I want to know, because you were saying, don't go to the edge. What, when you, we like I said, we talk about recovery a lot. Are there things that you specifically like to do for you to recover better? Or have you ever actually fallen off the cliff and had like kind of a breakdown where you had to recover more to kind of get back from it and you learned, I really don't want to go by that edge again? What kind of recovery do you do? And have you had any experiences like that?
Yeah. Luckily I haven't had like any major like shutdown since I've started my company. I've had bad days. Don't get me wrong. Like I've had nights where I haven't slept, man, freaking like everything. Like like crying, like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna make it, when you're running your own company, and especially when you're starting out, the stress level is insane. And especially if you're going solo. And it's something that you need to prepare for if you're gonna do it, right? In the Army, I pushed myself way hard in training and I just shut down. I was like out for the count for a couple days. And unfortunately the only thing that kind of helps you is rest. But now in my life now, I think the reason why I don't break down as often as I would is because I have a wife and she keeps me on track and keeps me on the ground kind of, and when I'm working too much and too hard, she kind of wakes me up and says, hey, it's the work is great, but you got to realize that there's a lot more to it than just the work.
Right.
So it's been really good to have her. And I do things that I don't think about work, right? Like, don't get me wrong, you should always be networking. You should always make friends. You
Absolutely.
should always be networking, but you don't have to think about work 100% of the time. So I play volleyball, I coach volleyball, there's not a whole lot else. I watch shows with my wife,
Well, you're busy, dude. You put in so many hours.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so curious. Like, well, and it turns out your wife is a super key to your success. I mean, I think it's so, a lot of people think, oh, if I get married, I'm going to have all this other stuff that's going to slow me down.
Yeah. And
guys, you don't understand. It's 1 + 1 = 3 at that point. As long as you've got a really supportive, good companion that you've chosen, guys, we've had people on this show that have talked about how they're like, my best recovery is coming home to my wife and I can just talk to her, or, she helps me just feel better. And she helps remind me why I'm doing what I'm doing. And she helps, pick me up when I've been down. And it's like, guys, being married with a supportive spouse is one of the biggest multipliers to your momentum.
For sure, man. And it's funny, if you could put my life on a chart on like my progression in life and like success.
Sure. Yeah, no.
It would look like, all right, he's not married and he's kind of doing good, married, boom. And it was like, as soon as I got married, it like woke me up and was like, all right, obviously I got to do something more. And it just, my whole mindset, my perspective shifted and broadened to a whole different degree. And so, my wife is awesome. And I'm that much better to have her. But yeah, the recovery and having her to recover with is definitely a huge benefit and a blessing to me. And like I said, just don't always think about work. If you're going on a vacation,
talk about that.
Yeah. So like if we went on a vacation the other day, just spur of the moment, we just went down to St. George and stayed at a hotel for a night, and I could have easily like answered emails and texts and all that stuff while we're at the pool or whatever. But
Sure.
I decided that I'm just gonna take it, recharge, and hit it again hard when we got back. And it's huge when you have stuff that's going on, especially when you're growing, and it's a huge stressor.
Well, I'm trying to learn this thing because so many people that have come on this show have said, whenever I'm recovering, I try and do something where like it's impossible for me to even think about work. Yeah. And I think that's such a big thing because I don't know. Well, and it shouldn't be something that takes a lot of effort to do. Recovery should usually be something that's kind of mindless. Yeah. I think. And if you're thinking about work still, like you're still working. And I think there's something special about the fact that you don't think about work and that your brain, when you come back, you're forced to reevaluate, oh, what's going on? Catch me up.
Yeah. And it opens your eyes to, okay, maybe I was doing something wrong. Maybe there was a hiccup here.
Totally.
You should fix that. I used to watch Shark Tank, and it was, I loved it. I loved watching Shark Tank, but I wouldn't sleep. So it was like a huge, like double negative or whatever, positive, negative. Like, I loved learning about business and business models and all that stuff and what made them good. But then I was losing sleep, and therefore I was hurting, my company and all this crazy stuff. So now I limit my Shark Tank watching and all that stuff. But and I think I like what you said about making sure that when you're doing something to recover, it's kind of mindless and kind of just something that would.
It's nice if you can go on autopilot a little bit.
Yeah, and that's a great way to recover, and I do that a lot. I think just anything, like even if it's like work related, but it's mindless. Like I just got a drone, and so like I'll go take it out, and I use it to shoot all my job sites, kind of a thing. But I'll go take it out and just learn how to fly a little bit, and that's kind of like a good recovery for me. But
that sounds awesome.
Another like amazing recovery technique that I've seen, especially in the military per se, is making sure that when you step away from doing what's burning you out, or like that's your most hard work, that you're doing something else to develop in another way. Like for example, if you're not good at math, like taking an online math class or whatever, just to kind of help you keep your mind sharp, all that stuff. And sometimes when you take a break and you slow down and stop, it's kind of like, hey, I just played 5 games of basketball. I'm gonna sit this one out, and then you don't walk around, don't do nothing. Now when you get back on the court, you're tight and stiff, and it kind of takes you a little bit to get going. So having something that will stimulate you enough to grow, but not overstimulate you, that's also really good.
This is so crazy. Because I think that's a super deep thought. Because the thing is, there's this one doctor who was talking about anyway, and I'm trying to get him on the show. I'll try and get him on the show. But it's my little brother's brother-in-law. He got really injured his senior year doing sports. He's doing basketball. And most, places you go, they'll just put you in a boot and they say, don't touch it for this many weeks and you're good. And they did that, but then they found this other guy that he was very big into. He works with NBA teams, and he gets players back up and going in like 3 weeks when it should be 6 weeks. He's really amazing guy. But his quote is motion is lotion. He's like, you got to move it, whether it's, through whatever. But he's like, because as you move it, he's like, it heals. It brings the blood and everything to there so that you can fix it. So it's like, guys, if you get hurt at the gym, you just, go back, but do it lighter or do other exercises. And I think the interesting thing, the super cool principle that I need to learn underneath this is that if you have, there's focus and then there's energy, and your energy level can, grow or not, depending on how much you've worked and what your capacity is. Your focus level also can grow or go down. But the thing is, it's like, if you've done, and it's totally just, if your focus has been so hard that week that you're at 0 and you're going to do now mindless stuff to recover, your energy still needs to be suspended or else you'll lose capacity. And so you need to get out and still do something, like Dan's saying, do something mindless, but do it, keep moving and growing somewhere in some way, even if it doesn't take a lot of effort.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was playing in an Orem City League a couple weeks ago, and I was playing volleyball, and I sprained my ankle, like a class 3 sprain, and tore a couple ligaments. And this is like, dude, it was like that was like my point when I was like, holy crap, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pivot. Like that was like right when I was like getting started in my specializing and shifting. And so I was like, holy crap, like I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up and maintain, and they're gonna say I had to sit out, like be off of my foot for a month at least, right? Because I swear it was broken. Like I felt it pop, like everything. It was bad. The bruising's really messed up. I was have to send you some pictures after, but man, it was bad. And thinking I go to the ER, and they're like, oh yeah, good news, nothing's broken, but the swelling does indicate like you tore something. And I was like, so do I get a boot? Do I get crutches? What's the step? And they're like, honestly, ibuprofen, ice, and walk on it as soon as you can, because if you walk on it as soon as you can, it's gonna heal a lot faster. And so I took it easy for like a couple of days because the pain was just insane. Yeah. But then after a couple of days, I was able to get back to work, and I had an ankle brace on, but that's about it. And now I don't have an ankle brace. I just walk around. There's still a bunch of bruising, but yeah, it's kind of interesting how you brought that up, because I was like, what? No way. I thought I definitely had to have a boot, but they're like, yeah, the more you move it, the better it'll be, the faster you'll heal, stuff like that. So
guys, there's something there. There is something there. I mean, that's it. And that I probably has a principle somewhere about showing up or something, because even if you're not going to do a lot, just doing a little every day, that can help. And even if you change your focus, I mean, but that is so crazy. Okay, guys, I want to recap on some of this stuff and see if Dan had anything that came to him that he thought, oh, I should have mentioned that about this. Specialize in something, know where the edge is, avoid getting in ruts. How do you know where the edge is? Different momentum costs more, kind of depending on what you're working on. Working hard versus working well. I think that one was such a big one. I mean, so many people, they just want to stay busy. It tends to go with the victim mentality. I'm going to point out, victims love being busy because they love being like, I'm working all these hours and I'm not getting results. And it's just the world has it out for me. Because look, I did all this work.
Yeah, I did all this work and I see nothing. Yeah, I did all this work and nothing. But yeah, you can work really hard, but you didn't work very well. Like if you spent all day shoveling a pile of dirt from point A to point B, and then you look up and see that there was an excavator right next to you that could have done it in 2 scoops, right? Yeah, you worked really hard for a whole day, got it, but you could have accomplished the same thing by just jumping in an excavator for 5 minutes, kind of
right.
Thing. So you just gotta know when you're working hard versus when you're working smart, and just be able to see that and be humble enough to like pivot and change and not be the prideful guy that's like, oh, I'm just gonna dig it out. I already started. I'm just gonna hurry and finish with the shovel, kind of a thing. It's not about the hard work. It's about the end results. So
I love that. So Dan, I mean, between working hard and working well, we know what working hard is. It's just working lots of hours with lots of effort. Working well, I mean, how do you do that? Is it through really good planning? Is it through, knowing more people or copying what the best are doing? How do you work well?
Yeah, the way I work well, and I think I work well, I'm learning.
Sure, no, you're getting great results.
I like to see my effort. I calculate my effort, like how much work did I put into this job or into this, and how much did it give me? Right? How much did I get back from my blood, sweat, and tears that went into this? My energy, like you said, energy and focus, right? how much energy did I put in? How much energy did I get back? Right. And so if I'm not seeing the energy reciprocated or the cash flow reciprocated, basically, then hey, I'm not working as smart as I should, and something needs to shift. In my line of work, it's really about like, I've learned a lot and really fast about scheduling and making sure I'm on top of when things should be arriving, when they're not supposed to be arriving, kind of the order of things and how they flow. And so like your ebb and flow, your like you said, planning it. There's always a saying, I'm sure it's everywhere else, but the military has it a lot. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And it's 100% true. If you're just working hard with no plan, you're not working smart, you're not working well, right?
Right.
If you're working and you have a plan and you have a well thought out plan, and don't get me wrong, if you plan and you're taking more time to plan than you are to work, then there's something wrong. Ultimately, the best plans, they need work, right?
Right.
Everything involves work.
Well, and as you work, your plans get better.
Yeah. And when you do something, like when I'm framing a house, I have a plan. And now, even just from this first house, not to my next house, I already know how I'm going to do it differently, right?
Totally.
But I couldn't learn that if I wasn't doing the work.
Well, and the more work you do like that, the less planning you need.
Yeah.
Because you get so used to the process and you just gain that experience. And so it's like, you don't have to spend nearly as much time planning anymore.
Mm-hmm. So if you find yourself working hard and there's no end in sight and there's no like reason or the results, the benefits from that hard work aren't there, then you're probably just working hard, right? And you'll see that a lot. If you're working a regular 9-to-5 job and you're working hard at it and they're not paying you what you deserve, or
paying you more based on your effort level or your experience.
Yeah. Like that's exactly what I'm talking about. You're working hard for somebody else's dime and you're not seeing it back. Like something's got to change, right? You either got to get a different job, ask for a raise, or do something on your own. And anybody can do anything on their own. It's just a matter of confidence and tenacity.
I love that. Okay, Dan, this has been awesome. I want to ask you a few more questions really, really quick before we end this. And guys, Dan is the coolest guy. Like, if you guys want to find him, we're going to have all of his links attached below. Go find his company, work with him, get him on your podcast. I mean, he's got so much cool experience that we haven't even tapped into yet about military and life and everything. So he's a deep guy. He's a great guy to work with. I've tried my best to try and work with him just because I know his level of quality is there. And even though I haven't been able to pull in as much on my side of actually making deals for him and things like that, he's just the best guy. I'd want him as a business partner in just about anything. So Dan, let me ask you really quick. Let me ask you 2 questions. One is there, just on whatever topic you want, is there a big lesson that you're learning right now in your life, or maybe a big lesson that you have learned in life that you think that would be really valuable to share with the listeners?
Yeah, I think for me, it's all about confidence, right? And there's a fine line between confidence and cocky. I think confidence is where you're cocky, but you're humble, right?
Nice.
With your cocky, you have no humility, right? So when I'm starting out, when I'm pivoting, when I'm doing anything in life, I always make sure I show that, hey, I'm confident in what I'm going to do. I have that confidence. I have the drive, the discipline to accomplish that with my confidence. But if I hit a spot where I'm like, hey, I have no idea what's going on, I don't know anything about taxes, I don't know how to frame this particular staircase, whatever, right? I have to have the humility to ask somebody for help. And that's the whole reason you have mentors. That's the whole reason you have friends, partners, anything, right? You have to know when you need to ask for help and have that humility. And so confidence is key. Confidence over almost anything. If you have the confidence, you will be successful.
Yeah, guys, confidence. Everybody thinks of that confidence. You never have to ask a question. You never have to, guys, it's the brave thing. The confident person will ask the question.
Yep.
They know to ask for help. That's huge. And then Dan, I think even more than that, is there something if everybody in the world was going to watch this podcast, you know, what's a message that you could send out to them that you think that they need to hear? Something that, you know, you just found to be really true in life that, you know, that the world as a whole kind of needs to hear.
Yeah, I think if you ever find yourself having a bad day or kind of down in the dumps, do something good for somebody else.
Huge.
100% of the time, it'll make you feel better, right? I think in my busiest days, busiest moments in my life, I've slowed down and stopped to think about others, and that has been the greatest blessing, not only for me, but probably for those people, right? Just always look for that opportunity to be somebody else's blessing, and you'll never have to worry in life.
Guys, that is so true. I'm feeling it right now. I'm like, oh man, like, oh, if I'm having a bad day, but I do one good thing for somebody else, like very intentionally, like take my own time, my own, you know, to actually do something for them. I feel so good. I think Robin Sharma in his new book, The Everyday Hero Manifesto, his dad, I think he said he would always sit his sons down, and I think he wrote it on their fridge or something where it was like, service is the key to a happy life. And he was like, that's the key, boys, like service, like do something for someone else.
Yeah.
Guys, that's so huge. Okay.
My favorite scripture in life is John 15:13, and it says, greater love hath no man than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. And so when you sacrifice for others, you'll feel more love than anything. So
guys, Dan is amazing. Dan, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Oh no, thanks for having me. I loved it. Enjoyed it.
This has been so good. We're going to have Dan. I'm going to definitely find a way to get him onto Master Cash. That's going to be our How to Make Money podcast. It's going to be coming out in a week or two. So we'll get Dan on there, guys, because he's got some really valuable business insights and he knows how to make money. So anyway, guys, I'm so excited. Dan, thank you so much for being on the show, and we'll have you back.
Yeah, thanks you. See you later.